Hello and welcome. This is MouseGunner, and I'm here with Rotype, and we're going to be continuing our Factorio series. And I believe we have another station in mind for this video, isn't that right?
That's right. So pretty much so far we've done this double-headed train type design where you can just pull in forwards and then it leaves going backwards. So that works just fine. I personally prefer kind of a single-headed train type design. So that involves a station that looks a little bit different. As you can imagine, if the train can only go forward and it pulls into one of these stations, it can't return back to where it came because there's no more forward available. So the first thing we really have to do is generally just build some kind of loop type mechanism here. And then this becomes our station. So
Now, out of curiosity, does that mean you have to put a stop facing each way?
not really. You could, if you wanted that kind of ambidextrousness, I'll call it. In general, though, what will happen is you'll have two lanes. So I'm going to make this our kind of depot. This whole big upside down U is I'm going to call our depot area. And then down here, I'm going to build what I'll call the main line. So that'll be this one. And then I'll build another one here. And so you'll have two lanes, just like you do kind of on on a normal road or I guess actual train tracks in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you end up getting some more interesting crossing designs, and this is where signaling becomes important. And so we'll get into that a little bit. The first, I guess, most important question is if you want trains to drive on the right or the left.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, but the stop is on the right, so
Correct.
that means that naturally right would seem the right way to go, right? Right?
I mean, it really, yeah, it really doesn't matter. The only thing I'll mention is, let's see if I have some signals. I'll make some signals in my pocket so I can demonstrate this. Actually, I think I have some in my car. So if trains are driving, let's say they're driving on the right. So if I'm going to the left from where I'm standing now, I'm going to be moving in this direction. To signal that, you always put the signal to the right of the train. So the signals on this track will be like this. You'll just have several signals on the right side of the train as it's moving this way.
Oh, okay, I see. So that way, do you have signals still? Let me
Yeah,
see
there
what
are a
they
whole
look
bunch
like.
in my car as well if you need some.
Okay. So you can put them on either side of the track though, right?
Correct. And that kind of dictates what
Oh,
way the train is going.
that's nice. It actually shows you by arrows which way it would go too. That's really
That's right.
clever.
Yeah, it didn't used to do that many versions of Factorio ago, and when they added that in, it was wonderful.
So right now the trains would be going on this side going this way and this side going this way.
That's correct. Now,
Okay.
there's nothing, wrong or right about it, but some people don't like that these signals are on the outside. If you consider kind of the double lanes, I don't know, road, and they like having signals like this on the inside, which
Mhm.
would mean the opposite. Up here, you're going this way because the signal is on your right. Again, you hover over it, you see the arrows, and then when you come back, you're on this side. So that's kind of like left-hand drive version for
Okay.
trains. And again, I think I'm not entirely sure. As with most things in this game, there may be some little nitpicky efficiency bonus for one way or another. But the biggest argument I see usually is people talking about how when you left-hand drive, your signals are on the interior, and for some reason that's better. I don't know.
Well, so we would only need these though for intersections of the track though, right?
Well, in general, yeah. So let's just say, since these signals are already here, we're on left-hand drive. So we're moving to the right on this top one. And I'm going to make this, so as I said, this big U is our depot, kind of our large depot area. So I'll just draw kind of a notional way that enters. And actually I did this too closely to the,
Yeah.
so I never, there we go. Okay. So now this is our entrance. to the depot. And so this basically says this depot is one way only, which I'm okay with that. We're going to design it that way. So you're moving left to right, and then you go up, and then you make this loop and you come down. So your other intersections, so if you're coming from the left, you have one here. If you're coming from the right, obviously you would need something that looks, let's see if I can get this, there we go, a little bit like that. Yeah. So if you're coming from the right, you make this. So yes, as you said, you pretty much need to signal, and I'll go over in a minute exactly how to signal, but you have all of these different signals related to the intersection itself. Another reason you might want another reason you might want signals is, let's say you just have this really long stretch of track that, I mean, in this game, sometimes you'll have track that just goes on for miles and miles, many, many squares. If the end of that track has an intersection on it that is currently occupied, another train can't enter that piece of track. So basically what signals do is they break up track into chunks, and only one train can enter a chunk at a time. And you can imagine if you make a huge chunk, you're kind of losing a little efficiency because the chunk can fit maybe 12 trains in it, but you've made the chunk so big that it's only going to have one. Did I explain that properly?
I think so.
So there's a reason, there's kind of a benefit to making your chunks of track, meaning your signal intervals, about as long as your longest train, because you're never going to have more than one train in it anyway, so you might as well not make it bigger than one train. So let's see.
I don't know if I did that right.
Yeah, so I mean, it even sometimes I have to think about it. So if we're on...
So I would be moving this way, so I should have done it the other way around, shouldn't I have?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this top track is moving towards the right direction. So you'd be going this way back to the right.
Oh, you beat me to it.
Yeah. And then if you want to go to the left, you'd be down. Oops, messed up by one square. There we go. Now you can see this signal here is kind of blinking. That's because it's like ambiguous as to what it's supposed to be controlling, and that's because we added this junction, and that can happen for a number of reasons, whether you have a junction or the block of track, like I discussed before, was kind of undefined. Sometimes it'll blink. So when you're blinking, you got to kind of look at your track again, look at your signaling, and see if what's going on, why it doesn't know what it's doing. So you just placed down a different kind of signal.
Oh,
whoops. Yeah, so I mean, that's okay. We need to talk about it, so we might as well talk about it now, because we'll start talking. I'm going to pick up all of these signals, and we'll talk about kind of how to signal this intersection here. I'll just give us a little more space down here, and then we'll talk about that. So we're on left-hand drive, so I'm going to ignore the left interchange now and just only focus on this right one. So if I'm coming from left to right, I now have this split. So I actually don't have any of those. So those signals, that signal you just dropped is called a rail chain signal. You can see it looks ever so slightly different. What a rail chain signal means is the section after the chain signal, you cannot stay in. So I'm going to do something a little more simple, just this straight piece of track down here so I can explain this. We'll have a regular signal up here, and then a chain signal down here. So this divides it into 3 chunks. We have this chunk is 1, this chunk is 2, and then this chunk is 3. What this means is if I'm moving this way and I hit this signal, I can enter the middle chunk as long as the middle chunk is clear. So I stop here, I check the middle chunk, it's clear, okay, I can come in here. What this one says, and actually I should have done this the other way, so I'll expand this again and make myself another chunk. So when I come to this signal, I'm looking at the next chunk, and if that chunk's clear, so far so good. If this were a regular signal, I could proceed. But the next thing I'm looking at is, how about the next chunk? So when I'm sitting here at this chain signal, I need to check 2 chunks ahead. And I can go, but I can't stop here. I'm not allowed to stop here if a chain signal was my previous.
So we might actually want that here, because we wouldn't want a train to stop right here,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. So what I'll show you, I put this here. You'll see the chain signal is red, even though there's nothing in the next chunk. Whereas a normal signal would be green because the normal signal only checks one chunk. This is red because it's not really checking the chunk, it's checking the signal in front. So it says, oh, the signal in front of me is red, so I got to be red. So just as you said, you put those where you still want the checks to happen, but you don't want a train kind of stopping and clogging up a bunch of intersections and other works. We'll go ahead and dismantle this, and then we'll signal up some of these intersections and talk about why I put certain ones in different places and how they work.
All right, so that should go there.
Not quite. So this is a good place to put a chain signal, because basically when I'm thinking about this, I think, okay, after the signal I'm placing, do I want a train to stop? So if a train is here, it's going to block all kinds of stuff. And I don't want a train to stop in this place because I want to leave this intersection completely clear. So I put a chain signal there to say, don't stop in this piece. Don't stop in this whole intersection.
Oh, okay. Well, but the train's going this way, though.
Right.
Down this
so
way.
Let me add a few other signals here. We'll put a green one there. And let's see. Grab my chain signals. So on the left, basically my general practice is to add a chain signal at the beginning, kind of like going in to different things, and a regular signal going out. I'm just going to break that to make this easier to explain. And then one more.
So what would happen then is that's clear. So any of these they're all green. So that means they're all clear because of this one right here.
Exactly. So, and actually, so this chain signal right here is checking this one, but it's also checking this one because of this split here, because it has the two different ways it can go, right? So this is right before this split, so it checks both ways. So you see, if I put one here, it blocks this signal, which is obvious, right before it. This one is now blue, which is kind of a weird color, right? So this is saying, if you're going this way, you can't go, because I'm looking at two different ways. So this way, you can't go. I'm going this way, you're clear because this one's green.
All right, I'm getting confused. Wait, hold on a second. I'll just, the way that we have this track, is that right? Because, okay, so this train's going down this way, right? So it has two ways to exit. One this way and one this way.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No.
Oops. I'm going to try and clear this up just a little, make it a little bit simpler. There we go.
All right.
So this is just a Y junction, and that's it.
Yeah, I get that, but okay, never mind. I just was getting confused. I got it.
Okay, yeah. So this makes sense, you know, and when it's clear both ways, it's green. When it's clear no ways, so if I put this here, it's red, even though the space is clear. And then when one of them is clear, it's blue. So the train will wait here. If it's trying to go to the left, it'll wait here. If it's trying to go to the right, it'll just go off to the right.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of the basics, you know, the simple way of explaining it. Obviously, when you get all these other track pieces in, you start having to signal a little bit more, you know, the signals get more complicated, obviously. But the good thing to remember is pretty much chain signal in, regular signal out. That's a good kind of, at least initial way of thinking about it. So I'm going to put, now that we've attached these together, I'm going to put a chain signal here because I don't want a train stuck in this middle piece, because a train is so big, it's going to back into all of this, and I don't want it backed up into all of this.
Yeah.
So, and then again, same idea. I'm going to put a chain signal here because I don't want it clogging up this intersection. Same thing here and here. And then on the way out, I'm just going to put regular ones and a regular one up here for the way out. Now, what did I forget? So even this, so this is another example of even sometimes I forget sometimes, like, oh, I need another signal somewhere. There we go.
I missed where that last one went, but that's okay. I think
Right
I think
here.
I get it. So the three main signals are, we've got one all the way on the left. We've got one over here where I'm standing. Oh, no, I see. That was the one you added. And then we have two here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. So, all right. Well, I mean, we'll see it when the trains are in action, but I think I understand.
Yeah, it sounds like you got the basics. And as you just saw, even sometimes when I'm doing it, I get the blinking signal and I have to sit there and, okay, wait a sec. It's on the left. It's going this way. So, and also being American, the left-hand drive is sometimes not intuitive to me, but you know,
Yeah, that's why I was getting confused, just because I was getting confused about the way traffic was moving, but I think I'll get it.
right. And yeah, I mean, like I said, you seem to have the basics down, and after that, it's kind of just trial, you know, guess and check, figuring out. So the next thing, I guess, how this all started is we have now a one-way train. So I'll go ahead and plop down my one-way train. Now I did 2 locomotives here, and I'm going to put 4 wagons. There's kind of this accepted ratio. You can imagine if you have, say, 1 train and 4 wagons, it's going to move slower than if you have 2 trains and 4 wagons.
Okay.
Obviously, as with everything in this game, somebody's done a whole bunch of testing and found out the optimal ratios for this, that, and the other. I found that 1 locomotive per 2 wagons is kind of a good ratio to keep. So you can obviously go 1 to 2 or 2 to 4. I just kind of like 2 to 4. It's a personal preference. Not really a big deal. Gotta find some fuel to actually fuel these things. There we go.
Oh, I have some. Oh, you already got it.
Yeah, just a little bit. And so I'm going to go ahead and rename this just depot. And tell the train to go to depot. There we go. So this is another good example of what I was talking about, track length. So you can see here, this is a good length between signals. So we have one signal back here. It's not like right immediately behind it, but it's close. And I'm going to go ahead and add another signal up here in front of this train station to just make this one chunk. Now when the train leaves, I'm going to measure this out, and there we go. It was a little too far, but that's about the length of our train. So this is where I'm going to go ahead and add another signal, just to allow trains to kind of bunch up if they need to without having these big, wide, empty spaces because your train blocks are so big.
Oh, okay. I think I follow you.
So there we go. And this almost works perfectly because if a train, you can imagine a train might be waiting at this intersection, you know, it'll be stopped here waiting for something to clear. This way you could have a second train in the bottom of the U, or I guess the top of the upside down U, and a third train at the depot. Whereas if you didn't have these other signals breaking this into another section, you would have one train at the signal and one train in the depot. Just
And we can see that the signal here is red, so it's letting a train that would be here know that this area here has something in it.
Right, but the train will be able to come up all the way up to here and sit, versus if you didn't have, let's just say you didn't have this signal at all, the farthest up a train could get would be this signal up here at the station, and it would just sit here, and it wouldn't pack in the way I just kind of talked about.
All right.
And I guess one other thing to note, because I when I was early playing, I thought they might, the train stops do not count as signals. They only count as like the train stop conditions you add to the train. So they don't function as a train signal kind of block.
Which is why you put a signal there.
Exactly. It would be kind of nice if, I don't know, either if they did or you could add them right in and the graphics change, that'd be kind of cool, but you just have to add a signal right next to it.
Well, I think that's a good point to go ahead and put a stop to this video. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is MouseGunner and Rotype signing out.